Hey there, and welcome to the Edvard Munch lesson. Uh, I'm Karen. I'm your art lesson crate advisor, teacher, connoisseur of art, and I'm going to help you create one of the world's most famous paintings of all time. First of all, I want to go over our supplies. You received a kit, and for this lesson, you are going to need to use the paints and the paintbrushes. You're going to notice that in this kit, there's this funny looking thing here, a sharpener, a pad, some pencil colors, some oil pastels. This right here is what most people are going to say, what the heck is it? It is a gum eraser or a kneaded eraser. Basically, you play with it. You just play, you pull it, you stretch it, you play with it, but it's an eraser. It'll erase everything you want. The cool thing about it is you can pinch it into points to get fine little areas. You can use it as a big, nice, chunky thing to make clouds by pressing it down on pastels. Or you can use it for what I used it for in college, which is something to keep me from falling asleep during boring classes. It's really fun to use. My students love it. They beg me to take them home. But it is just a kneaded eraser. And the reason you need it is because the more you play with it, the more the pencil and the pastel and all the dust that's in it falls out as you play with it. So it's kind of cool. So you have those supplies, and you also have our artist info. I want to tell you about Mr. Munch. Mr. Munch was actually a decently looking man. He was born in 1863 and died in 1944. He's a Norwegian painter, and he was also a printmaker, which means he would carve into things, ink them, and then print them on surfaces. The Scream has 4 actual versions. There's 2 that he did in pastels, and then he did 2 as paintings. He created a lithograph and made some prints as well. The story behind The Scream is kind of creepy, if you ask me. It's he was walking with 2 friends, and I know this reads it, but I want to tell you about it. He was walking with 2 friends, and he's walking down a pathway, and I guess what he implied with his quote here, it said, "I lagged behind, shivering in fear because the sky turned as red as blood. I stopped and leaned against the fence, feeling unspeakably tired. Tongues of fire and blood stretched over the bluish-black fjord. My friends were walking by and continued walking, and I lagged behind in fear. And all of a sudden he heard the infinite scream of nature." For several years he admitted that he was mad, and that after creating The Scream, he realized that he had given up hope of ever being in love again. Seems like a pretty tortured soul, if you ask me. I think basically what happened was just the sun was setting, and it was just amazing in the rich reds and pinks, but in a mind of someone with an illness. I guess he thought it felt like blood. I don't know. But we did get one of the world's most famous paintings of all time from it. So we do thank Mr. Munch for that. You received some papers that look really funny. This is painter's tape. It's not just for walls. You can use it on other things, in art especially. You also may notice that your paper is really, really thick. Now I gave you 2 of these, so if you mess up on one, you can do another one. And the reason I did this outline is because I don't want to use the whole paper as my piece of art. I want to create a mat or matting simply by not painting the whole page. But I want a nice crisp line, so I use the painter's tape. When you remove this painter's tape, you have to be so delicate because you'll mess up your artwork, you'll mess up your paper. I've done it before. Sometimes I've pulled it up and torn the paper and had to draw designs on the outside just to disguise it. So I'm not perfect, trust me. You will need a water source and a napkin source. And you're also going to need your brushes. And you're going to need a plate. Squeeze your paints on there as you use them. Don't just squeeze them all out at once because it is acrylic paint. Acrylic dries as it's in the air, as air is touching it. So you don't want to mess up your paints and have them go dry on you. First thing we want to do is sketch. So let's get a pencil out. And we're going to sketch our basic form of our skeleton. It represents Mr. Munch himself. It's the fear and terror that he feels literally has reduced him to almost a skeletal form. It's kind of creepy. I can't bring myself to teach this to my young students. I feel like it's just a little too scary for them. But for adults, I feel like this is good for you guys. So what we want to do is determine where the main landline is off in the distance, because it's going to come to a point, and from that point your poles are going to come out. So this line is very key to the rest of the painting. Now if you draw this line really low, you're not going to have a lot of room for your skeleton. So let's do it kind of in the top third. I'm going to softly, softly, softly draw a line. This is called a one-point perspective. One-point perspective means all of your lines go to one point. So landline, the poles, all going to one point. So from this line, you can use a guide. These cards are excellent. And you can draw it like that if you want perfect lines. Or you can freehand it. You'll notice that you can't make parallel lines. Let me zoom in so you can see this. When I go to draw my first line, I line up with your point. And I draw down to any point on your paper. Anywhere, it doesn't really matter where it ends. I can't just drag it down because that's not a one-point perspective. That has this line over here. This cannot move from here. So all I'm going to do is fan it out. See that? And that's what gives it that perspective. So there's one pole. Let's give it a bottom because it's a pole that does this, and there's a side that you can see. So we want to be able to have the top of the pole and then the side visible. Let's do it again. Drop it down just a little bit. So we're going to do the pole again. My paper's getting a little too short. So I'm going to freehand it. I'm going to turn it so I can do it a little better. So I have my top and my side, sky. Top, my side, sky. Top, my side, and then that's going to be the land. I know it's confusing. You want 1, 2, 3 small ones. You want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big ones. I promise you, this is the only hard part of this whole painting. And if you mess this part up, it's not the end of the world. This is just the sketch before the drawing. So you can always erase. Try not to erase too hard because then you can rough up your paper. Let's go ahead and put in our skull. His head is up here. So we're going to start off with a very soft circle. Curve it in. And drop it down into a skinny V, I guess you could say. Let's erase the lines inside. Give him the oh no face, a nose, and then he's got very large eyes going on. The hands are very simplistic in form. You're going to just pop out of the cheek on both sides. Follow the cheek curve and come on down. You'll need to bring in the back of the hand as well and give him a shirt. We have a shoulder that's going to kick up, or kick out, sorry, and curve. Come down and bring it back up to the inside line of the shirt. And bring this one down. So you've made a sleeve. This one's not as difficult because you can't see the shoulder, so we're just going to give them a sleeve. Excuse me. Let's give him an angular, curvy body. And erase all lines inside. This is why it's important to really, really, really draw softly. All right, I want to draw a couple of railings. My railings are going to go straight up and down. So I have my top, my middle, or my side railing. Top, side, railing. Top, side. So double those lines, and you've got a railing. Let's do it down here. Top, side, railing. Top, side. Oh, mine's going off the side. Railing. Probably fit one back here. Top, side is already blended in. Do you see how it's blended in? So I'm just going to take this line and draw from there. Top, side, railing. I almost feel like there should be one kind of in here. So let's draw railing, railing, top, side, railing. All right. Let's come up here, blot in our land. It's over here, curve it, and then there's like a little more land over here. Just organic shapes, nothing too difficult. And then up here is almost a mountain line or a hill line, so I'm just going to curve it. And there is our screen. This is our basic drawings. We're not going to draw the people in the background. I feel like they take away or distract from the actual picture. If you would like to blob them in, you're welcome to, but I just don't feel like they're necessary in this reproduction. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. You'll want to start the next video, which is the fill-in phase, and make sure that you are in something that is not clothing-wise, that is not very special, or that you have an apron on, because acrylic paint does not wash off. So go ahead and get your area ready for the painting side, and we'll see y'all in a minute.